This is another sign of the times, an analysis and a commentary. Israeli-Palestinian face-off, with rockets landing on the outskirts of Tel Aviv and Jerusalem, and the Egyptian Prime Minister making a solidarity visit to Gaza, the accelerating conflict between Israel and Hamas, reminiscent in many ways of so many previous battles, has the makings of a new kind of Israeli-Palestinian face-off. The combination of longer range and far deadlier rockets in the hands of more radicalized Palestinians, the arrival in Gaza and Sinai from North Africa of other militants pressuring Hamas to fight more, and the growing tide of anti-Israel fury in a region where authoritarian rulers have been replaced by Islamists, means that Israel is engaging in this conflict with a different set of challenges. The Middle East of 2012 is not what it was in late 2008, the last time Israel mounted a military invasion to reduce the rocket threat from Gaza. Many analysts and diplomats outside Israel say the country today needs a different approach to Hamas and the Palestinians, based more on acknowledging historic grievances and shifting alliances, emboldened by displays of Egyptian solidarity and undeterred by Israel's advanced aerial firepower. Palestinian militants under siege in Gaza have broadened their rocket targets, aiming at the holy city of Jerusalem for the first time, pushing the Israelis closer to a ground invasion. Israel's government has more than doubled the number of army reservists it can call to combat if needed in the increasingly lethal showdown of Gaza's Hamas fighters and their affiliates. After they fired more than 700 rockets into southern Israel over the last year, the escalation has raised fears of a new chapter of war and the intractable Arab-Israeli conflict. The Israeli military closed some roads adjacent to Gaza in anticipation of a possible infantry move into the territory, which would be the first Israeli military presence on the ground in Gaza since the 3-week invasion of 2008-2009. The Israeli military chief of staff, Lieutenant General Benny Gantz, went south to brief regular forces and reservists. "We are here on the eve of a possible ground operation," he said. Many residents of Jerusalem, which Israel claims as its capital, despite objections from the city's large Palestinian population and others throughout the Middle East, were startled when wartime sirens warning of impending danger wailed at dusk, followed by at least 2 dull thuds. Hamas's military wing claimed in a statement that they were rockets fired from Gaza, 48 miles away, and had been meant to hit the Israeli parliament. Earlier, in Tel Aviv, 40 miles from the Gaza border, air raid sirens wailed for a second day as a rocket fired from the territory approached. A police spokesman said it apparently fell into the Mediterranean. Although the rockets missed their intended targets, the launchings aimed at Jerusalem and Tel Aviv, the 2 biggest population centers, underscored the ability and willingness of Hamas rocket teams to target Israeli or Israeli-occupied areas that up until the past few days had been thought relatively immune. We are sending a short and simple message. There is no security for any Zionist or any single inch of Palestine if we plan more surprises, said a spokesman for the military wing of Hamas in a message reported by news agencies. Even Saddam Hussein, when he led Iraq, avoided targeting Jerusalem when he aimed Scud missiles at Israel during the First Persian Gulf War in 1991, not wishing to inadvertently destroy Muslim shrines or hit Arab neighborhoods, despite 3 days of repeated Israeli aerial assaults on suspected stockpiles of rockets in Gaza. The Israel Defense Forces said more than 100 were fired into Israel on Friday, the time in which the Israeli occupation does whatever it wants in Gaza is gone, said the Hamas Prime Minister in a meeting with his Egyptian counterpart. The persistent ability of Hamas to keep firing missiles at Israel appears to weigh heavily in the Israeli military's calculations about a ground invasion. Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu said the Israeli army was continuing to hit Hamas hard and is ready to expand the operation into Gaza. Israeli television later reported that the Israeli Defense Minister had authorized the military to call up 75,000 reservists if necessary, more than double the 30,000 already authorized. And this too is another sign of the end of times as we know them, transition days, which is a time of extraordinary happenings, events, and changes, because it's about what kind of world are we leaving to the future generations, and that should be a very important question to ask. Zechariah chapter 14, verse 12. And this shall be the plague wherewith the Lord will smite all the people that have fought against Jerusalem. Their flesh shall consume away while they stand upon their feet, and their eyes shall consume away in their holes, and their tongue shall consume away in their mouth. 13. And it shall come to pass in that day that a great tumult from the Lord shall be among them, and they shall lay hold, every one on the hand of his neighbor, and his hand shall rise up against the hand of his neighbor. 14. And Judah also shall fight at Jerusalem, and the wealth of all the people round about shall be gathered together, gold and silver and apparel, in great abundance. Matthew chapter 24, verse 15. When ye therefore shall see the abomination of desolation, spoken of by Daniel the prophet, stand in the holy place, whosoever reads or hears, let him understand. 16. And let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. 17. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house. 18. Neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. 19. And woe unto them that are with child, and to them that give nurse in those days. 20. But pray ye that your flight be not in the winter, neither on the Sabbath day. 21. For then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world to this time, no, nor ever shall be. 22. And except those days should be shortened, but for the elect's sake those days shall be shortened. Again, it's time for prophecy to be fulfilled. Everything is connected, and everything is numbered, and all these are more signs.